What is up, everyone? Welcome back to another video, an exciting one as game week 1 is fast approaching. We normally do these out and about, but it's pretty hot in the UK at the moment. So we've decided to do FPL walks from home. Oscar and Ross are joining me. We're going to look at some of our drafts. We're going to answer some of the hot topic questions. But first of all, very nice to have both of you on. Oscar, how are we doing?
I'm not too bad. Yeah, I was just switching the aircon off as you were saying it's a hot day because I just wanted to make sure it didn't come through on the mic. But it's roasting today. But I'm looking forward to talking for our teams. Yeah, feels like we're not far away now from Game Week 1.
I know, Ross, we're not that far away. Feeling settled?
No, I felt settled the last week, and then I did that silly thing where I start trying different stuff because I'm bored. So I think I need the Community Shield to swing in so that it'll give me a little bit more clarity or confuse me even further.
Yeah, I think the Community Shield is going to tell us a lot about Arsenal. We're going to talk about their defenders, but we're also going to start by talking about Man City. Today, we're recording on Wednesday afternoon. It sounds like a lot of those City players, including Erling Haaland, are back in training. How many minutes do we need him to play in the Community Shield this weekend for us, A, to go with him, and B, for him to be a captaincy option? Oscar, at the moment, you and I both have our captaincies on Haaland. Ross, you don't. So, Oscar, what do you need to see from him on Sunday?
I'd be all right with a cameo, personally. I wouldn't be surprised if he gets the cameo, starts Game Week 1. But yeah, I don't dislike Bruno captaincy Game Week 1. Like, I do think Hull are going to be the team to target through the whole season. And that even includes when teams are playing them away. So yeah, I'm definitely not rolling out going for Bruno captain. But I mean, let's see how the Community Shield goes first.
Ross, worried about Haaland? Any chance that we get to the point, let's say he plays 10 minutes, do you think you'll still just start with him and it'll impact captaincy, or a chance you go without him?
I think if Haaland's in the squad and gets any minutes, I'll absolutely have him. I think for me, captaincy comes down to, how many minutes does he get and how convinced am I by Bruno Fernandes in the final 2 Man United friendlies? Because right now, we've not really seen much of Bruno either. People are saying Haaland's coming back late. We've only seen one small cameo appearance from Bruno Fernandes, and we don't know exactly how Manchester United might line up. So I am always trying to be different. I like going for different captaincies if I can. But I think if Haaland gets like 60 plus minutes, looks on fire, looks fresh, I might just lean towards him because, again, Bournemouth do have a new manager, and it's a home game to start the season.
Yeah. I like the Bruno captaincy, but there's always something about Haaland in Game Week 1 that I feel like it's pretty difficult to go away from him. Right, can I just stop one sec, just because I want to make sure this is recording.
There's a tiny little banging. I don't know whose mic it is, but...
Right, before we look at our teams, I just have a few quick-fire questions to go through for both of you. First up, Oscar, your favourite 5 million defender?
I like Maguire, Williams, Mihajlovic.
Ross?
I'm going to go for Big Dan Ballard.
Very nice. We'll go to you, Ross, next. 4.5 defenders. If you don't have the money, like I feel like when I'm building my draft and you're having to save it, where are you going?
If he looks likely to start the season, Aya. Otherwise, I think Hume is probably my favourite.
Oscar?
Yeah, I would have said Hume as well if it's a short horizon, but I think Shaw, Rodon, Aya.
Yeah, I quite like Rodon. I'm feeling more confident that he is going to start the season, but I know some Leeds fans don't feel quite the same. Next, we're going probably to the big talking point at the moment, those mid-price mids. You've got Mbeumo, Vert, Szoboszlai, Semenyo. If you could only own one of those, I think Mbeumo is top of the list for me at the moment. Oscar?
Yeah, I'd agree, Mbeumo, but I think Semenyo, close second for me.
I'm going to actually say Florian Wirtz is my favourite. If I need to own one going into Game Week 1, I think it'll be Wirtz.
Wow, I was surprised as the man in the Man United shirt, he came out with that answer.
Yeah.
Let's go cheaper. Cheap mid, so 6 million or under. Pascal Gross, very popular. I've gone off the 6 million ones in Ndai and Lafi a little bit, so I probably will go Gross, I think, for mine.
I think Sangare is my favourite 5.5. Good short-term fixtures. I think he'll get DEFCON a lot, and he actually doesn't have terrible attacking numbers. Feels like Elliot Anderson of this season.
Yeah, hopefully don't agree on everything throughout this whole podcast, this whole video. But I think Gross, Sangare, I would agree with. I like Ndai actually if he stays, but we'll have to see because there was that rumoured interest, and then Fabrizio said no, he wants to stay in the Premier League. But it's like, how do you interpret that? Does that mean he wants to stay in the Prem but go to another club? I think a bit cheaper Gomez and Norgard for 5 mil good.
Fine. Next up, let's have a look at a template player, the first template player who's going to drop in price early on in the season. It's a hard one. I'm going to say... Go
on, Harry. I want to hear what you say.
I'm going to say a player I think we've already mentioned, and I'm actually going to say Pascal Gross. I quite like him, but I could easily see a blank against Villa, and then it's Chelsea away, and then people just are fed up with it, and they go to someone like Sangare, who's getting DEFCON all the time.
Yeah, I could see that. I'm gonna go for, it's either for me Calafiori or Szoboszlai. I could see if Calafiori gets a benching, it's just everyone sells. But I could see Szoboszlai starting in the pivot, getting like 8 DEFCON, no shots on target or anything like that, and then people will say, why are we owning a defensive midfielder? So I'll go Sobo.
Yeah, I think Gross isn't high owned enough. He's like 10%. I think this is a bold one because he's the most owned defender, but I think Gabriel. So like, if they keep a clean sheet against Coventry and concede to Villa and Chelsea, which is pretty feasible, I could see him dropping fast.
Yeah, I mean, 8 million's a lot for him. He's got to also show that he's worth that money. If you're spending 8 million on him and he's not getting anything more than a Calafiori or Mosquera, people will move to one of those. The final question then, I suppose the flip to that, a player that people are not really owning, that early season bandwagon, that player who's going to rise 3 times in the first 2 weeks. Any thoughts on that? I think Sangare of Brentford is a really good shout. Their opening fixtures are good. I expect the DEFCON and minutes to be pretty reliable. The one I'm going to go with, though, is cheap. People will need to free up money for something. We always need more expensive players. So I'm actually going to go with Norgard of Everton, as everyone comes off their 6 million mids down to him to free up money for someone else.
Yeah, I think the one I'm going to go for, it's a bit later than early season, but coming into game week 4, if Bruno has a slow start and Palmer gets good minutes, I just think that is going to be a 1.52 million managers will just do the Bruno to Palmer switch. So I could see Palmer being up at 10 mil within 4 or 5 weeks of the start of the season.
Yeah, I think it'll have to be, talking about bandwagon, it'll be someone that has an explosive start, I think. I just don't know if it'll be a DEFCON mid. It'll be someone that spikes it all. Like, I'll say Igor Jesus. Like, he's got Leeds home game week 1. Like, let's say he scores in that game and scores away at Liverpool. I think that's feasible. Like, given Liverpool's situation right now, then I think it could easily be him that's, 6.2, 6.3 by game week 3. So I'll go Igor Jesus.
Well, I mean, what a perfect segue. Let's start by having a look at Oscar's draft. About the only person I know that doesn't own Erling Haaland, João Pedro, and Dominic Calvert-Lewin as their front line. One of the few differences between the 3 drafts that we might have a look at in today's video is that you've gone with Igor Jesus. I wanted to ask, I think Ross and I are I'm very bullish on Calvert-Lewin at 6 million. I just think he's a great option. How come you haven't gone there and you've gone Igor Jesus?
He's just like one of those players. I don't know if you guys have got one that you just swear not to own because he's burnt you over the years. And maybe that's not the smart play, but I've been there before with DCL when he's massively disappointed. Like last year, for example, I think it was game week 11. I sold Gyökeres and I had the option of DCL or Thiago. And that allowed me to sell and die for Saka. And I ended up going Thiago. So obviously maybe it's a bit of like recency bias because Thiago obviously was unbelievable last year. So I'm happy to just go against DCL. I don't think he's essential. I recognise that he's a good pick on pens. Fixtures aren't bad, but I think Igor Jesus is fine. Obviously not on pens. That's the trade-off, but I like him.
Ross, thoughts? Considered it, or is DCL just locked?
Well, we both did forwards videos recently analysing it. And so what does Calvert-Lewin has better minutes, penalties, better data, better fixtures. Like,
when you put it like that.
But this is the issue I have because I wanted Brobby and I was like, Igor Jesus, Brobby. I could go for, and I'm like, I can't give you one reason other than Calvert-Lewin's a troll and sometimes doesn't finish that Igor Jesus or Brobby are better. Like, I actually think that Leeds opening 5 fixtures are brilliant because there's not a single bad one in there. They also don't have any bankers. They're not playing like a Hull at home or anything like that. But when most of us are wildcarding in 6, you've got a player that gets great minutes, takes penalties, gets chances, on his day can score goals. And I think, like people pointed to last season, Calvert-Lewin started horribly last season. And maybe we'll see that again. And he is one of those players that takes a bit of time to get into the season. I need to see something from someone else. Like, give me a hat-trick in the next game. Give me something. And I know he scored like 4 in 4 or something like that, Igor Jesus, but we saw that Watkins did that the previous season and then just blanked. So pre-season can be a little bit misleading. I just struggle to pick anyone else.
I think also context though, like last season, Forest, it was a bit of a write-off season for them, wasn't it? And
Yeah, true.
they had three managers last year, I think.
Yeah.
Was it
So
not
it was
four?
very stop-start, wasn't it? Or maybe four managers. Whereas obviously Glasner's come in, like he knows how to get the best out of attackers. Mateta over the years, Elise, Eze. So I know
Yeah.
he's not on pens. I think his minutes will be better. I think Woods picked up a knock in pre-season as well. So,
Yeah.
but regardless, I think his minutes will be better. He's actually been playing as more like a 10 in pre-season. But if Woods got an issue, then I think his minutes will be even more secure. But I think that'd be a lot better than last year. And that was kind of his first year. DCL's had what, like 10 seasons. So yeah, I think he's all right for 6 mil.
Yeah, I mean, I like him. I mean, a couple of years ago, I started with a Nottingham Forest striker in game week 1 in Chris Wood, and he did very well. So hopefully it happens again with Igor Jesus. I think he's a good pick. The couple of other players I wanted to ask you about, the Arsenal fan in the room, you have gone for a different Arsenal defender to the one that both Ross and I have got in our teams. Is it just a case of that's who you've got in at the moment and you're not worrying about it until you get closer to the deadline? Or do you think that Mosquera is better than Ben White and Calafiori?
I like Calafiori if he's starting every game, but there's just that little bit of uncertainty. I know, like, Nkapie's been playing left centre back in pre-season until Gabriel came back, but he can play left back. Gabriel's back. Plus, there's Lewis Skelly. There's all these headlines about how he's just committed to Arsenal despite interest from elsewhere. I don't know if that's true or not, but there's like three good options that can play left back. I think you'll see Lewis Skelly is more of a midfield, but obviously we've got Bruno G arriving as well, so. I just think Mosquera is the safer pick, but definitely lower ceiling. I mean, White is worth a mention as well. I think he's also 5.5. So we'll have to see what Timber's potential return is looking like. If that's still a while away, then obviously White is perfectly fine as well, and a little bit more secure than Calafiori, I would say, but obviously injury prone. So yeah, that's really just what it's boiled down to. I've just gone for the safest option initially.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Two other defenders to wrap up on this. Of course, we're all looking at a bench boost either in game week 1 or game week 2. You've gone with Hume, who is playing right wing for Sunderland in pre-season. Is that purely a bench boost first couple of weeks and then you don't need to worry about him after that type of pick?
Yeah, exactly. Playing a promoted team game week 1 goal, 1 assist in pre-season. As you said, he's playing right wing out of position, 4.5 mil. So he's a nice early pick. I could see myself wildcarding quite early, but so if I do, then he'll just come straight back out. But I've tried to sort of balance the team out where I potentially don't have to commit to that. So, for example, I mentioned Mosquera over Calafiori. In theory, safer unless Arsenal sign a centre back. I did have Ndiaye and Gomez instead of Gross and Sangare, but again, that feels a little bit riskier. Like maybe Ndiaye leaves, maybe Gomez, his minutes start to look worse over the first few game weeks. So I've tried to pick, I guess, more of a robust team now that has the potential to last longer. If I'm in a position where I've started really well and I can move to Chelsea players in game week 4, that sort of thing without wildcarding, then I'm certainly open to that. So that's kind of the thinking there. But Hume's definitely the one that's the puntiest beyond the first few weeks.
Yeah, nice. We're going to talk about Williams in just a moment, but it also ties in a little bit to the 5 million defender that Ross has got. But just before we look at Ross's draft, he has very excitingly launched an app over the last couple of days. We've spoken about it before. You may have seen it on socials. There'll be a link in the description below if you want to go and download it. All of us have tried the grid game from a couple of days ago. Sadly, both of you hit the perfect score and I didn't. I got one wrong. I'll show you a little clip of us playing it now. And then, Ross, do you want to tell us a little bit about it before you talk through your draft?
Yeah, absolutely. So basically, think of it as like a collection of different games where you can test your football knowledge with you and your friends. We have a game called Puzzle Picks, which Harry will show, where you're basically doing daily puzzles. There are 16 squares, 13 are correct, 3 are wrong, and you have these daily questions. It will be multi-sport eventually. You can do little predictions on there as well. You can actually predict the Premier League table and then create leagues with your friends to track it across the season. And we've got a long list of about 100 different other games that we're going to be adding over time and other sports. So it's basically like a collection of social football and other sport games where you can test your knowledge and make predictions with friends. But we are very much an anti-gambling product. There's no money being exchanged here. It's just supposed to be a safe space for you and your friends. So thank you to Harry for letting me give it a little shout out, and I definitely think you should give it a download completely free as well.
Yeah, no, it's been really fun, and I managed to predict Chelsea to win the league. I don't quite know how that happened, but we'll see at the end of the season. Let's go back and have a look at your draft. So let's start in defence. There's a lot of love for Maguire and Luke Shaw. The Man United fan in the room, we asked Oscar about Arsenal. I really think that Maguire is worth it. I feel like I watch him pre-season that with no Casemiro, he's sort of the threat from a lot of your set pieces. Are you hopeful to free up that money, or do you think there's not much to pick between it?
So I'll be truthful. I hate this draft that you've got on your screen. Like, I really don't like what I've got right now. It is actually what I've still got, by the way. So it's not like a fake draft. But basically, the issue I've got is I had as my defense Ballard, Maguire, and Muharemovic. Right, that was about 10 minutes before you asked for it. I had that. But then I just started getting Mbeumo FOMO. Like, I did a video where I found out that 61% of people had Mbeumo, and that terrified me. I'm like a Man United fan. I want to cheer on my team. I don't want to have a 61% EO against me in Mbeumo. So I basically, instead of Szoboszlai, I put Mbeumo in. To do that, I had to free up $1 million, which meant I had to drop Maguire to Shaw and Muharemovic to Rodon. I can sit here right now and promise you Maguire is a much better pick than Luke Shaw. And if you've got the 0.5, you should absolutely do it. I will just say, I don't think either of them are 100% nailed on. Man United are very clearly still looking at left-backs. Mazraoui and Dalot can play there, although last season we didn't see that. Luke Shaw started every game for us. And De Ligt is now back in training. And you could absolutely see Martinez and De Ligt. You could see Yoro and De Ligt, Heaven and De Ligt. There are lots of options that don't involve Maguire. So I can't sit here and say that either Maguire or Shaw are fully nailed on. And it's really going to depend on what happens over the next 10 days. Or so. So I know that's not a great answer, but I guess what I'm saying is if you've got 0.5 right now, Maguire is definitely better than Luke Shaw. And I kind of have worries about Rodon versus Muharemovic. You said you feel slightly better now, but I still think if they do switch to a back four at any point, which we've seen them do, they can change their system. I'm almost certain it's Biol and Muharemovic, not Rodon. And I think if they play a back five, even then, Justin could fill in kind of right centre back. So I don't think Rodon's fully now. So then I look at it and I say, is Mbeumo worth that finding that extra $1 million over Szoboszlai, which I think he is a much better pick than Szoboszlai personally. Like, Szoboszlai isn't attacking enough really for me right now. But then the only place I can find that is in the defence. The one thing I will say is the best 5 million defender is absolutely Dan Ballard for me. Like, I think he's hands down. I think he's a much better pick than Maguire, Muharemovic, Vuskovic to start the season. Like, I look at him, I think he's so underrated. Great fixtures. And I do think Sunderland will struggle more this season, but brilliant fixtures. Really good goal threat. He had the exact same XG per 90 as Gabriel and Van Dijk last season, and he averaged 11.1 defcons per 90. He's got fixtures, goal threat, defcon. I think Ballard's a really nice pick.
My issue with him is Alderete and Mukiele probably out of game week 1, which I think hampers them. It means someone like an 09 and Hume are good picks because they're nice and cheap, but I do think it impacts them defensively. And game week 1 and game week 2 are great, but 3, 4, and 5, Brentford away in 3 is okay, but 4 and 5 are pretty rough. So I don't want to be having to worry about that spot too much. Whereas in that week, I think Maguire's got Everton away, Fulham away, and City at home. It's not great, of course, but I just feel like if I'm going to try and carry it slightly further, that's my thinking on why I don't have Ballard at the moment.
You need to have the rotation.
I was going to say, you could do Verts to Szoboszlai and you've got Shaw to Maguire, but then you have literally got the template team.
Yeah.
Are you backing Verts to have a good season then? What's the thinking?
I am. Like, I think for me, Verts is 0.5 at least better than Szoboszlai. I really do. Like, when the game came out, I was like, Szoboszlai's the one. Like, so good for 7 million. But the more I think about it, I'm like, this guy just doesn't carry the goal threat, and he doesn't have the assist threat of Bruno Fernandes. Like, the more I look at Verts, and I'm not saying he's a trap, and I'm not saying I won't go with him, because he's been in my draft for like 99% of pre-season. But when I again go through my decision-making framework and list the things I look for, no goal threat really, apart from when he scores a thunder bastard from 40 yards out. The assist threat really isn't very high. Like, like if you look at his assist numbers, you'd think, wow, for someone that you think's creative, they're not great. Defcon numbers, I think, is a bit of a myth. He's not a Defcon maniac. He's not getting it every week. The great thing about Sobo is he's absolutely nailed. He could share penalties and take set pieces, and if he sneezes, he gets 3 bonus. And that is the good thing about him. It's like Bruno Fernandes and Gross. Like, this guy will get 3 bonus if he returns, which is why you get those big, like, 11 pointers. But I just I'm not fully there right now on Szoboszlai, which is why I wanted Verts, which is why I then wanted to get Mbeumo. And then we come back to the issue of, well, Ross, now your defense absolutely honks because you've got 2 4.5 defenders and O'Shea in there, and Ballard's your only 5 million. So I don't know. This team's really not very well balanced. I'm going to have to just suck it up probably and drop one of Verts or Mbeumo. But as Harry said, with the 6 millions, I don't like them. 6.5s are okay. Zolis, Dango. I just find it tough right now to find the balance.
If you look at my draft now, it's effectively done what you're wondering about doing. So I've only got Vert because I spent all of last year basically saying I don't want to own Szoboszlai. He scored 2 open play goals all season. He can't keep scoring free kicks and getting assists from corners. He did continue to do both of those things. But a player for 7 million who scored 2 open play goals last year is just a difficult own for me. I know he ticks a lot of boxes. I know over the season he will do well. But I have tried to fit Verts in. And in order to do that and keep a strong defense, I've got Ndai, Enzo Laffy, and Pascal Gross. And I don't have room for an Mbermo because I've got Vardio, Calafiori, Maguire, and Maremovic. But just like you're having the FOMO of the defense, I'm looking at going into Hull and Ipswich in the first 2 without Brian Mbermo. No way to get to another premium mid, really, because I've got Ndai and Laffy, and to get up to them is really difficult. So this is sort of the other flip side of I've only got 1 premium mid and I've had to invest in the defense, which leads me to the question, is Bruno definitely worth it? Now, Ross, I'll let you answer this one. And I think he is for game week 1 and 2 because he's got Hull and Ipswich and he's a known quantity. But I don't think over the season we'll own Haaland and Bruno together for long periods of time. I don't think it does good things for the rest of your structure.
No, I think if you're confident in captaining Haaland against Bournemouth and Crystal Palace, 2 teams with new managers and 2 teams that have lost arguably their best centre-back of the season. I mean, arguably Bournemouth's was Hill, but they've lost Senesi, they've lost Lacroix, they've lost their managers, they've lost key attackers in their team as well. Like, both of those teams could be on the ropes a little bit this season. I mean, maybe they will be absolutely fine, and both the managers that have stepped in are good managers, of course, but basically, you can captain Haaland in the opening 2. And then beyond that, you won't have Bruno. I think a lot of people will wildcard without him. You wouldn't have a huge issue not having him for 3, 4, and 5. So can you go without? Absolutely. My concern is, I just said that I've broken my team to get Brian Mbermo in. I have issues with Mbermo and Cunha really badly. Like, I don't know that either of them are nailed. I think that Cunha's come back fairly late. He's now in full team training, of course, but you do have Marcus Rashford there. You've also got Sesko now back in team training, who, before he picked up the injury, was brilliant as our number 9 and was really starting to play himself in as the starting player there. And I would argue that Ahmad has probably been better than Brian Mbermo in pre-season. Now, Mbermo's got the goals, but 2 of them were tap-ins and 1 was a penalty, and 1 of them was deflected. If you take that away, I still don't think Mbermo's at the ceiling that we know he's at. And the end of last season, he was arguably our worst attacker. There was so many games where Man United fans, myself included, were calling for Brian Mbermo to be dropped. So I do worry. I think game week 1 he absolutely starts, and he probably starts as the 9. But even then going into game week 2, could Sesko get the nod? And if Sesko gets the nod, are you dropping Ahmad? And then you say, well, I'll go for Cunha, but then you say, could Rashford step in? And that's why you then go back to Bruno Fernandes and you just say, this guy starts every game. And that's why I love Bruno, because you don't have that doubt. He could get a penalty, scam an assist, get DEFCON, and all of a sudden you go, well, Bruno was rubbish, but he's come away with 18 points in 2 weeks. So
yeah, I know the thoughts. Oscar, any final thoughts on Bruno or on my team? I'm slightly concerned about Bench Boost 1. I've got double Brighton, who play the Thursday before their game week 1 fixture. I've got Enzo Laffy playing against O'Shea. And then I've got Maremovic going away to a Forest team who I expect to score in their first home game of the season. I'm slightly concerned about it, and I'm looking at Bench Boost 2, but we'll leave that. Any final thoughts, Oscar? Anything you like or dislike about my draft? I mean, it's pretty great.
It's a solid team all round, to be fair. I was just curious what your thoughts are about Bench Boost 1 versus 2 versus later, because I was on 2 for a while, and I've currently pivoted to Game Week 1. Are you considering Bench Boost 2 or saving it at all?
I'm considering both, because the more I build drafts, the more I want players like Mbermo, Burt, and a good defense. The thing that's stopping it actually is the bench boost. Because a lot of drafts, I'm $1 million or $500,000 short. If I take that out of a goalkeeper or a defender that I'm using on the bench boost, then I can get those players that I want. But then I've got to think about the bench boost later down the line. So I think all of 1, 2, and saving it are all possible. Is that same for you, or you just, I need to play it?
No, I want to get out of the way early, just because we don't have a 4 mil keeper, really. And maybe it's not a good enough reason, but in my head, I just want to have that 0.5 mil extra when I use my wild card later. So I think there's enough potential in the first couple game weeks to use it. I like game week 2, but for me, I'll be betting on Coventry. And in the last friendly, I did have Wright in my team for the game week 2 bench boost, but Wright wasn't even in the squad.
No, apparently he's injured for. There was rumors, but he's injured for a while, which means that if you wanted to do that, Sims at 5 million might end up starting.
Wow, yeah, because Sims is 5 mil, so maybe that does open the door to it again. Because I was on right for a while on double commentary defense. But that's the other thing. It is like all in on commentary. So if commentary concede game week 2, like you're gonna have a really tough time to have a good bench boost then. But I don't know. I have to look at it again now. You said that about Wright's injury and yeah, Sims. Like, he did really well last season as well, Sims. Like from what I gather, Wright is really like hit and miss. He can run hot and cold. On his day, he's unplayable. Sims came in and also did really well. I think he got like 13 goals in the championship. So yeah, I'll have to have a look at that again now.
Cool. Well, I think we're going to wrap it up there. Thank you both very much for joining. If you aren't subscribed to Oscar, FPL Focal, and Ross, FPL Raptor, I will leave the links in the description. Please make sure you go and do so. If you aren't, download picks in the description, like and subscribe before you go, and I'll be back again very soon.